Someone asked me recently, how do you deal with anger? I'm not going to pretend like I'm so introspective that I understand exactly how I process everything, but here's my best guess. Smidge of context here. I'm a person who gravitates more towards being depressed or sad or ashamed, but I've dealt with a shitload of anger before in different intense periods of my life, especially with this condition. There's only a few things that I've thought of that I can actually make sense of. I find myself the most angry when I'm doing everything right and I'm completely exhausted by it. That's probably the number one time I'm the most angry. It's when I'm like waking up at like 4:30 in the morning. I'm going to the gym. I'm eating super healthy and I'm doing all these things because I feel like I absolutely need to make sure that I can function properly and optimally in life. And then I go and hang out with someone like a family member or a friend or something, and they just complain about something that seems so underwhelmingly trivial. That's when I find I'm the most irritable by far. And the toughest thing about it is to like maintain that perspective that like you shouldn't put that on them. Like you shouldn't be putting people down for what they're feeling, because at the end of the day, like pain, suffering, all these different things, like it's all relative. So like their frustration and your frustration might actually be the same, might be on the same level, but you might be having to do so much more to overcome that frustration. And it's not nice. It's not fun. That's like one of the hardest things about this condition, I think, for me in my experience, is that like I have to work so hard, so much harder to be like a slightly above average functional person. It's easy to get through some of those periods of being like, fuck, I wish I didn't have to. And that's okay. But just remember that, like, no one wants to be around a person who complains all the time, who's angry all the time. Like, I think everyone has come across that, like, angry old bitter man in life who, like, no one wants to be surrounded by because they don't add anything to a relationship because they're just so grumpy as fuck. Like, they're just not nice. They don't like life. They don't like their life or their situation. And I think keeping in perspective that, like, you have to ask yourself, who do you want to be? When you go through something really devastating or difficult, or you get change forced upon you, and I think that's the thing about this condition, is it does force you to change. Like if you want to do really well, if you want to be functional in life and you want to have a good, healthy time, like you have to change a lot. You gotta dial in your daily routine like a motherfucker. And it's really hard to accept that at first because it's forcing you to do a lot more than you expected to do in life. I was talking to my buddy about this, who had a really intense accident and he got paralyzed from it, and then he had to rehab, he had to do all these different things, and I saw him get very angry, and I asked him, because I was wondering, like, how do you process this? How did you get over that? Because he's not like that at all anymore. And it's time and acceptance. I think that's kind of the process. And then, like I mentioned, it's keeping that perspective. Who do you want to be to the people around you, especially? Because those are the people who are going to get really negatively impacted if you start lashing out or being really upset about your situation. They don't deserve that at all. One of the nicest things about how I feel I've changed with this condition is over the years, I used to want everyone to help me and I wanted to put it on everyone. But now I don't feel like I put it on anybody. I talked to my wife recently about this, and she said that I don't even worry about you when it comes to this stuff because you deal with it and you don't make it my problem. Unless it's so bad that I can't like function. I have to take some time off work or something like that. And she's learned to accept that does happen and it's going to occur. And the same could happen to her. So, I mean, she's just giving me what she would expect me to give her in that situation. But the psychological side of things, she doesn't worry about me because I think I've figured out a way to compartmentalize that it's my burden. It's not everyone else's. I think the best advice that I could give in the short term, if you're finding yourself being very angry all the time, is that you use it as fuel. The difference between depression and feeling sad and down and something like anger is I feel like when you're sad and down and depressed, you don't have a lot of motivation. You don't have a lot of feeling. It's a very low energy feeling that you get. But when you're angry, I think you get like really high energy. You get a lot of pent up anger and rage, and it feels like you've got enough energy to explode. And what I would do, and what I have done in the past, is I've tried to pivot that and start using that as your fuel and motivation to start just hitting things productively as hard as you can. Like use the aggression and use the anger towards things that are very positive. Instead of allowing it to consume you, use it for good. It's the best way I can put it. That's it. That's all I got. You guys are fucking awesome. Have a wonderful day.